everyone, and welcome back to Quarantine and Chilled Wine. Olivia Chapman here, owner, founder of Tortured Vines, and we're here today with another really fun pairing video. So today we chose two of our wines from the Grocery Wine Roundup. We have the 2018 Decoy Chardonnay. We chose that one because it is an oaky Chardonnay, so that'll show how these oak flavors play out in pairings. And we chose the Noble Vines 337 Cabernet, show you how a bold, heavy cab, also more tannic wine plays in with pairings. This will be a really fun, really polarizing tasting today. Now for our flavors, we do have new flavors today. We have umami, which is basically kind of that savory taste. MSG is a really good example, so a lot of Asian foods. Nutritional yeast is something really good that you can use as well. I used some miso paste because we had some in the house. Also another really great example. So like miso soup, things like that, kind of that savory kind of taste. Next, we wanted to taste how kind of fat plays on different food pairings. So I just used some salted butter. You could also use any sort of fatty cheese for that example as well. Last, we chose something that's kind of a chili flavor, something that's hot, something that's spicy. You could use red pepper flakes, you could use chili oil, you could use hot Cheetos. I used the Hip Peas Sriracha Sunshine Snacks. This is what the bag looks like. These are absolutely one of my favorite quarantine snacks. They're organic, vegan, non-GMO, no nut, no soy, gluten-free, kosher, whole nine. So I've been literally living for these things in quarantine. They come in a bunch of different flavors, so shout out to my favorite snacks. Alrighty, so what we're gonna start with is the umami. So with that beautiful little soybean paste right there. Now what umami does is it makes wines more dry and more bitter and less fruity. So generally we call that a wine faux. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll taste our Chardonnay. We'll always start the lighter wine, go to the heavier wine. Just remind yourself how that tastes. Again, an oaky Chardonnay. You can taste a lot of that oak. Now, you don't need much of this. It's really strong in flavor. You really just need a teeny tiny little bit. Get that miso paste, again, kind of that savory feeling. And then we'll go back to our wine. And that tastes even more oaky. So that, umami and oak Chardonnay would not be a good pairing in my opinion because that tastes very, very, very oak heavy, and I'm already not a huge oaky wine fan. So next, let's go ahead to this Noble Vines, which is probably gonna taste a little stronger with this. So we'll go with the Cabernet. And a little bit of our miso paste. And that one, you definitely get a lot more bitterness. The wine's already a little bit bitter, already really tannic. You just get a lot of that, even more tannins, that mouth feel from that wine. So umami definitely would not go great with either of these wines. How this pairing would play out in real life is things like shellfish, oysters, mushrooms. A lot of those things are really high in umami. So with that, you'd want to pair with a sweeter wine, so like a Reserve Riesling, even like a sherry or a champagne are all really amazing pairings, just because they do have a little bit of that sweetness, a little bit more of that crisp acidity. So it does pair better with this wine than anything that's high oak or high tannin. And then if you didn't know this, bitterness in wine generally comes from the tannins or the oak. Again, these are both high oak, high tannin, so you can see how that makes that already bitter wine even more bitter. Next, we will move on to fat. So for that, we're using some butter. And what fats do is they make wine less acidic and then also a little bit less tannic. So it's almost a little bit of a balancing type of food. So let's go here to our Chardonnay. Again, so much better if that umami's resolved some. And let's get some of our butter. Very sweet, creamy. And then when you taste the Chardonnay, I actually love this pairing because it strips back some of that oak in that Chardonnay and gives you a lot more of the fruit flavors. So I think you can actually get a lot more of that actual grape taste out of the wine, a little less of that oak from the aging. So I personally love cream in an oaky wine. I think they balance out really beautifully. They give you more of that fruit, that grape flavor, strip out some of that oak. So I personally think that pairing is amazing. The first time I used butter in a pairing, I thought it was very, very weird to actually put a blob of butter right in my mouth, but works out really cool in this case, so I'm all for it. So now let's move on to the Cabernet. All right, we got our Cabernet. And we need some butter. So we got our butter here. And that as well, I love. It makes that Cabernet taste a lot less tannic. You do get more of that fruit really plummy now with this pairing than it tastes on its own. So I would say both of these wines are an amazing pairing with fatty foods. So some examples, I love like an oaky Chardonnay with like a risotto, a creamy pasta dish. I just think it pairs absolutely beautifully. Strips some of that oak, gives you more of the fruit flavors. So I love that pairing. Also, a Cabernet goes really well with anything that's really animal fat. So a fatty steak, really any steak in general, hamburgers, prosciutto, things like that is a really amazing pairing. Because what that does is it balances out that animal fat, kind of pulls back some of that fat content and pulls back some of those tannins. So it almost mellows each other out and meets in the middle. So love a Cabernet, a tannic wine with some steak. Love a Chardonnay with sort of a creamy, buttery dish. So some really amazing pairings here. Something else that I recommend too is I like to keep wine and food in the same weight class. So you wouldn't want to do a big, heavy, juicy steak with a wine like a Beaujolais. It's a lot lighter. It just doesn't stand up to each other. So that's why I love a Cabernet with a steak. Same thing, something like a heavy risotto, a hearty pasta. That I wouldn't love as much with a Sauvignon Blanc, just because that is such a light wine, or a Riesling. It's just too light of a wine. You need something that's a little bit heartier, a little bit oakier, a little bit more complexity. So that's why I love like a Chardonnay with a pasta dish. So again, really great pairings. Both go really well with buttery, fatty foods. Lastly, we will go to our chili. And again, we have our Sunshine Sriracha hit piece for this. So let's start with the Chardonnay. Oh, and what chili and oil and stuff like that, chili and spicy food, excuse me, normally does is it makes wine taste more alcoholic. So it makes wine that's already a little bit astringent taste even more so. So this is a really interesting pairing to see how it plays out with these wines and their alcohol contents. So that's generally what chili flavor hot foods do. So again, we got our oak, we got our Chardonnay. We got some Sunshine Sriracha here. And we go back to our Chardonnay. And again, this wasn't a very highly alcoholic astringent wine, so it really didn't change the flavor too much for me. I do pull out a little bit more of the oak, but not as crazy as that umami did. So let's see what happens with our cab. So again, pretty smooth. Now you definitely get more tannin, some of that alcohol burn in the back of your throat a little bit. So that definitely does make this wine taste more astringent to me, more alcohol heavy. So I really don't like spicy with a tannic wine. I mean, just out of curiosity, this wine is 14.5% alcohol by volume. This one is 13.9. This one is a little bit higher in alcohol, which is why it gives you some more of that astringent flavor. Definitely has to do with those tannins as well, some of that bitterness. So again, bitterness comes from oak or tannins. Now, what would go well with chili would be definitely a sweeter, softer wine. So a Riesling, an Albarino, a Gewürztraminer, those would all be really, really good pairings with some spicy food. So Thai dishes, Indian dishes, anything with a bit of a kick to it, that all goes really well. So in conclusion, I hope you guys enjoy learning today. You have some new things to put in your wine toolbox, some fun pairings to try while you're home. You might even have had things to play along with us today. Pretty common to have some Chardonnay, some Cab, some spice, some butter, and some umami type things in the house. So hopefully you're able to play along and you enjoyed this. One of my favorite quotes is, "The purpose for wine and wine with food is to make your life better." So hopefully we're making your life a little bit better today while you're in quarantine. And again, as always, the best pairing is the one that you enjoy. Otherwise, this is Olivia Chapman signing off. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and stay safe. Again, leave anything you want to see in the comments below, even things you're wondering what would pair well with it. We'd love to answer all your questions. Otherwise, stay thirsty, my friends.